Hi, this is Jason with the Backroom podcast. We are continuing our Emerald City 2011 coverage. I am here with Jeph Jaqcues of Questionable Content.
Hi there.
Hi. So, we are at the very end of the con. We didn't even try to get near you last year. The lines were so long. Is it just a matter of 3 days helping spread out this year? Or
Yeah, I think 3 days have spread things out. I've also started doing a thing at these bigger conventions where I typically just take the morning off, and I found that, that gives me a little bit more of a rest, and then it also seems to kind of stack up the crowd for, right when I get in, and then I get it all out of the way. And it kind of
people get tired of waiting in line.
Yeah, exactly. So, for better or for worse, that seems to work out pretty well.
You also seem to be, it's really nice, you do free sketches for anybody who asks, really quick ones, but you just ask for tips after that. You're not asking for or are you taking larger commissions as well?
I typically don't do larger commissions simply because I don't often have the time. I mean, even if I don't have a line with me, I've still got people coming every 5 minutes. And so, I've tried to do commissions at conventions before, and it just never end up having a chance to actually do a good job on it. So.
Oh, that's fair. And you got, you end up selling out of plenty of your other things that you have.
Yes, indeed.
So you've got a few sketches left, and so are the prints you bring, T-shirts. Because so you're about 7.5 years into Questionable Content now.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. Was this your first webcomic?
Yeah, it was my
first comic.
First effort. I've drawn comics my whole life. It was what I did when I was a kid, all the way up through high school. And then I kind of quit in college to focus on music, but then got back into it with this, and it sort of took off. So yeah.
And a brief deviation there, you mentioned because you got a music degree from college, and so now you found, through Questionable Content, a way to put music out there through Death Mole.
Indeed, yes.
So there were 4 or 5 albums out now?
Oh, God, I don't even know anymore. It's really weird because, I just kind of record the songs in my spare time, so it never really hits home just how much stuff I've put out there. And then I'm looking through my iTunes list, and there's like 40 songs, and I'm like, how did this happen? Okay. So yeah, but it's a nice kind of venue for my other real passion in life, which is music.
Right.
So, yeah.
And you are one of the few, the proud, who have managed to make a living out of webcomics. I mean, this is your full-time job.
It has been since 2004, I believe. Yes.
Wow. So almost within about a year of starting the strip.
Yeah, it was almost exactly 1 year after I had started that I found out I was losing my day job and decided to try and make a run of doing this for a living, and it worked out. So.
Well, good happenstance there. I mean, you obviously work as you try to come up with interesting concepts based on the strip to do with T-shirts or other unique prints that aren't necessarily within, say, the canon of the strip, but still work.
Yeah. I found that stuff just tends to sell better. People have, everybody's tried to sell a shirt with, just your characters from your comic or the logo or whatever, but the demand for those just doesn't seem to be there. So it seems like the tangential stuff is what people want, so it's what I do.
Right. And right before we started this interview, somebody come up, what do they want? Yelling Bird.
Yeah. It was, not even part of the comics continuity. He's just this horrible little creature I invented, so, yeah.
Well, he shows up every now and again.
Yeah, every so often. Whenever I'm too sick to draw a proper comic.
Ah, there it is. And you want to yell at people for being sick. And so, I mean, you've got this. How much do you plan in advance? How did you know this was going to continue? Like, how many arcs do you have?
Well, I don't really think in terms of story arcs or anything like that. I have specific plot points that I aim for over the long term. But frequently, the characters will take things in a completely different direction. And then I just kind of go with it. I feel like if the characters start writing themselves, that's usually a good sign. And you should probably just let it roll. So,
So you don't fight against the characters at any point? It's nothing
I went through a phase early on where I was sort of kind of struggling against what the characters wanted to do, but then I realized that was just really counterintuitive and counterproductive. So, I just kind of let them take it where they want to go now.
Okay. So what is your earliest comic memory? What started to inspire you?
The earliest comic I ever remember reading and really, really getting into was Garfield when I was 4 or 5.
No, I hear that. I did the same, yeah.
And then, of course, you kind of grow out of Garfield because it's very repetitive, and you get into Calvin and Hobbes and Bloom County and all the really, really good strips. So I was definitely much more of a newspaper comics kid than a superhero comic book kind of kid. So.
Okay. And then what helped inspire you to start doing strip, like a full comic? Or panels, at least?
It's just that it was a format that I was more comfortable in because it was what I had always done with my own comics.
Okay.
And it seemed more natural than trying to do a full page thing because I just didn't have any experience with that. It's something I'd like to try in the future, but I think for QC the current format works pretty well.
And do you have an endpoint in sight for QC? Or?
I don't have a specific end in mind, but I do think that if and when I get to a point where it feels natural to kind of tie things off and say goodbye to the characters, I'll do that.
Do you just have an idea book of all this other strips you wanted to get to at some point that just it doesn't happen because you have
It's
to
really
focus?
funny. I have like a big text file of just jokes that I think would work into the comic, and I have yet to actually use a single one. It's like if it leaves my head and goes down onto paper, I never touch it. So it's just all in my head.
Instead of a sketchbook like you could just sell punchlines.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know if they're any good since I haven't used them, but yeah.
So it's just, how many cons do you do a year now to try to keep up with that?
We've been slowly trying to kind of whittle it down because for a while we were doing like 12 or 13, and that was just way too many. I think I'm doing fewer than 10 this year. As far off the top of my head, we're doing Emerald City, TCAF, Mocha, San Diego, SPX, I think. So it's probably like 6 to 8 this year. Because
obviously you still have to write 5 comics a week.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a guest strip this last Friday.
Yeah, which really saved my ass.
Any good angry emails come in yet on that one?
No, everybody seemed pretty pleased with it overall. Good. So yeah, I was surprised.
But I mean, even with the guest strip, you're now up to about, it was almost 1,900 strips.
Yes, indeed. It'll be 1,900 in like next month, I think.
So yeah, do you ever take stock of that to sit back and realize what you...
It's very weird to think that I've got almost 2,000 comic strips under my belt with this thing. But it's strange because doing it day to day, you never really think about it. And then a year later, you look back and go, oh, wow, I've done all this stuff.
All right. Any other projects you actually are working on or other guest strips you try?
I have plans for a couple things that I would like to do. One of them is like a kind of standalone QC, like tangential story that I'd like to put out as just like a small, separate comic book kind of thing, like a trade paperback sort of thing. I'd like to do that this year if I can find time, and then I'm finally getting to the point now where artwork-wise I can work fast enough that I could probably start working on a second comic. So I've been kind of bandying various concepts back and forth in my head for the past year or so. Hit on one.
Finally getting to that. Yeah. So. I mean, you had your wife as essentially your business partner and helping run a lot of that. You now have Topatco behind you helping organize a lot of these things. Is that helping to get to where for the merchandising side of things where you can keep things moving without having to focus on it or be concerned about it as much?
Yeah. Before we moved to Topatco, it was just Christy and I doing all of the merchandise. And Christy was doing 80 to 90% of it because I was just doing the comics.
Sure.
And it just got too big for us to handle. And so we handed that off to Topatco, and it's been great. Like, as far as business decisions go, that was probably the best one we made because they're really good at what they do, and I was really bad at that job. So it's nice to be able to delegate some of that stuff to other people.
Are you looking to do collections at some point? Thanks to them
we've got the first volume, which I sold out here. But,
there it is.
First volume has been out since, I believe, November, and that's been doing really well. We're going to try and get the second one out sometime this summer, hopefully before San Diego ComiCon.
Are you trying to do that within arcs or just specific number total?
I'm doing the volumes in like batches of 300 strips because I figure it'll be easy enough to get caught up relatively fast, but they won't be so big that they have to cost $25. So
always important.
I'm trying to keep the price point down below 20 if at all possible. So.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, thank you much for your time. We really appreciate it. This is the Backroom Podcast, backroompodcast.com. Thanks for watching.
Hey, Mr. Record Man, the joke's